All right, here we go. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ham, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today has over 25 years of experience in facility design and is dedicated to helping corporations by maximizing their work environment. She's worked on projects ranging from a rare bookstore in New York City and custom kitchens for apartments on the Upper East Side. Eventually, she worked designing custom branches for Carteret Savings Bank, where she learned about facility management and being part of a larger picture. She started HF Planners in 1998. I hope I got that date right. I didn't even check, which caters to the facility management profession, knowing the challenges involved in running a facility. She's Caroline Shelly. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
Great to have you. And joining her, my other guest is a part of the business development team and is excited to ensure that customers' needs are being met by bringing them the unique HF Planners experience. I took out a word there for sure. She's excited to connect with their clients. She utilizes her skills to gain experience in retail management and commercial furniture. Her past experiences have given her the opportunity to gain in-depth industry knowledge and aspires to continue to share that knowledge to connect clients with the best design possible. She is Alexandria Rodriguez. Allie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I'm pumped. Are you guys pumped? I mean, how many podcasts a year do you guys do? Is this the first one?
This is the first one I've ever done.
First one ever done. I mean, this is a great way to start. I mean, I don't know if you know, but this show kicks ass. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn some stuff today. Obviously, like I'm just going to be straight up with our audience. We're recording this in July, and this is going to post 2 months later. But we're going to get into why the timing of this episode posting is important to the grand scheme of things and kind of what everybody here is seeing as we kind of return to work. So, Caroline, tell me, so you went to design school, right? So tell me, like, what was the fascination behind going to design school and that kind of stuff? And why'd you get into that?
Sure. Now, so what? So I grew up on Cape Cod, believe it or not. People do that, and they're not all fishermen. But as I was growing up, I probably did one too many puzzles and rearranging bedrooms and driving my parents crazy that, okay, this seemed like a natural way to go. I did go 1 year to school for a liberal arts degree, and it was clear that I was not on a good educational track then. And my mother literally said to me, you better figure out what you want to do because it's not liberal arts. So I knew in my heart my high school class that long ago was an architectural drawing class, which I just loved with the mechanical pencils and everything. And it was a natural to go into design. And I studied out in Chicago, which was really neat, living in a city after being on Cape Cod and, learning how to be a city girl for a couple of years there. And when I went to work for Carteret Savings Bank, it was just like, holy smokes, people get paid to do this kind of thing and make office spaces work for corporations. And I just fell in love with it. And it's been a fascinating ride ever since.
Awesome. Did I get the date? Did I get 1998 right?
No, 1988.
No, 1998 for starting HF. Sorry, I should have made 99. That question more.
You're right.
99. So I was close.
You were very close.
Very close.
Good
so
math.
Yeah. But one of the things that I would have to ask off of that answer is how do you go from the design, space designing side to the facility management side? I mean, I know I read something about that in the bio when I introduced you, sure. But what was like the awakening that you had that was like, hey, this is actually something that maybe could be more my calling, or at least something that I could start a effective business with?
Yeah. I see young people coming out of school and having the passion that they went to design school and just recognizing that if you're on a path, you got to stick with this path. And it wasn't always easy. When I first moved to New Jersey, I worked for Sun Fun Furniture, and I was helping people lay out their outdoor patios and everything. And to some degree, that was fun, but it wasn't my calling, like you're saying. And then Channel Home Centers, I'm really dating myself here, was looking for a store planner. And believe it or not, at that time, we were still using typewriters. Really dating myself. Okay. And I did not have a typewriter. So I actually hand wrote my resume, and printed it, which is, back in the day was a skill set that drafts people needed, how to print on a drawing. And that really impressed the gentleman looking to fill the position, and he interviewed me. So I got my start in store planning, And it was neat, but the fun part about Channel was designing the bathrooms and the kitchenette areas, if you recall that. And it was clear that this, I wanted to stay in the design field, but that this was not the area for me. From there, I went to a custom cabinet shop, which is where we did the rare bookstore and these fascinating apartments in Manhattan. And that you had to come down to the a 1/16 of an inch on the cabinet drawings to make sure things fit properly. And that was another huge learning curve. And what woods work in areas, what woods don't work in areas, what can clients afford, what can't clients afford, and help them guide them into that direction. And then from there, I entered facilities at Carteret Savings Bank, and initially was hired to help design their branches. And then this was the 80s when banks were booming, and they weren't bringing in money fast enough. And Carteret took new headquarters in Parsippany, and I was put on the headquarters team. And, this was 100,000 plus square feet, and designing the entire space and project managing it and fitting it out, working with the construction team, the computer room people, the telecom people, the furniture people, and how do you make a whole space for 200, 300 people come together. So that was just fascinating to me. And I just loved being part of that puzzle and part of that team. And that's where I've stayed ever since.
Awesome. It's almost like the whole thing kind of just kept growing. Like,
Exactly.
You started working on smaller projects, and then they just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
And now you're just doing whole facilities. So Allie, we're not going to forget about you. You're going to contribute to this episode, I promise. So let's get a little bit of background on you. So how did you wind up? Because I think you used to work at BE Furniture, right? Is that right? And then now you're at HF Planners. So talk to me about your career path. Are you just like really into furniture and space design and that kind of stuff? Is that how a similar path?
Well, I got into commercial furniture from a friend. I was looking for a job at the time. I was working in retail, and I had interviewed with, the owners of BE Furniture, and one thing led to another. I worked there for 2 years. I knew nothing about it. I've come to love it. I kind of like the idea of taking a blank space and, you're essentially making art with furniture, with carpeting, paint, lighting fixtures. I mean, I'm not necessarily doing that because I'm not the designer, but just representing those people that have that skill and letting them run with it. It's just something I fell in love with. And then I ended up meeting Caroline, and she was my networking partner. And during COVID, I had interviewed with her and made the switch and joined her team. And, they kind of take it a little bit deeper than commercial furniture, which I love even more. I mean, I've been here for 6 months, and it feels like, a blink of an eye that I've been with them. And I hope to stay with them for a very long time and learn more and more about this niche industry that we're in.
Right. Yeah. So talk to me about the importance of being able to bridge that gap, because you mentioned that you're not the one that's actually designing the space or whatever. But I mean, I sell title insurance. I'm not the one putting together the title commitment, but it's very important for me to be able to talk to the production side of our team and also to our clients. So talk to me about the importance of like learning the ins and outs of it. You may not be the one doing it, but you got to know what's going on in that business, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and that's still like a learning curve too, because I've only been here for 6 months, but the facility in general, which, employees don't realize, it's a big portion of a company's success. So a lot of what we target is facilities managers, and, they have daily challenges and headaches that they're going through, and no one but them really understands that. So, I reach out to them, whether it be LinkedIn, through networking, and really just try and pick their brains and talk to them and get to understand what they're going through. Really a good salesperson, more than talking and, regurgitating like the services that you provide, is listening to their problems. And then once you find that pain point, then it's much easier to say what you do because you're relating to them. So that's how I do it.
Right. Yeah. Like I remember when I first started with Fidelity, it was like my first week, I kind of sat with our production staff, and then they're like, all right, go sell it. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing or what to say, or like, who do I even call? So it was a baptism by fire for sure. And, eventually we figured it out. I mean, when this episode posts, I will be 4 years into this job. And I think I'm starting to figure it out. So, so Caroline, I want to ask you a question about, like, we're talking about space design, and obviously that is a big, a hot button issue, kind of coming out of COVID, the pandemic, and going into 2021 and beyond. How have you seen, you could even take it further back if you want, I mean, depending on how far back you want to go, but how have you seen the desires for these clients on their, what they want from their space and how they want it to operate?
Yeah, sure. Like 2 years ago, real estate is not cheap for corporations. And 2 years ago, corporations were trying to, how can we maximize this floor plan by fitting more people into the space? So, everyone got a desk that, essentially a 5-foot wide desk, and you're next to the, right next to somebody on either side and potentially even across from you. So the density of the floor plate really increased 2 years ago. But now, with the whole COVID pandemic, and how are you going to get people back into the office if you're bringing them there and make it safe for them? A lot of people are hesitant to come back to the office. So initial strategies we're helping clients with is, okay, eliminate the position to the left and to the right and across. So somewhere where you had 6 people sitting before, you only have 3 now. And okay, if you only have 3 now, what are you doing with those other 3 people? Are they working from home? Is it a shared desk situation? If it is a shared desk situation, is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and somebody else is coming in Tuesday, Thursdays? So we're doing deep dives with these corporations and sending out surveys so that the managers can determine, what is the schedule? Do people need to come back into the office? Is that the right scenario? And if not, how do you maximize their work potential from home? So it's interesting to see how corporations are trying to strategize. And if they have a 4-building campus, do they need all 4 buildings? And, are they mothballing a building for a year or 2 years or selling it, or what has to happen? So I don't think we're just, I think, at the beginning of this whole challenge, and what happens in a year may be totally different than where we're sitting right now.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think with everything, it's one of those things where it's going to take a while for the dust to settle. So like this episode is going to launch September 7th. There could be a lot that changes between July 7th and September 7th. We've seen it. We just went through a year and a half of it where things change like very quickly, whether they were for the worse or for the better. And, so I think it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to see kind of as we progress. And maybe we'll have some, hot takes from this episode that could be very, apparent and very, true after listening to this episode. Sure. So I'm sure that they will be. So, Allie, when you're talking to your clients, or you're, marketing to different clients, or trying to like develop business and bring in business, what are some of like the, particular pain points that they're really trying to express to you at this point? Like, so you said, you had mentioned that one of the big things is listening, right? And like listening to their problems and how you guys can help. So maybe even a better question, because that question sucked. Maybe even a better question would be, how do you differentiate HF planners from everybody else? Like, why is this different than just using some other, facility design team or whatever?
I think it's the fact that, we are such a small group of people, but we've worked with companies, small companies down the road that maybe have 10 to 15 people, and we've worked with Fortune 500 companies. But the difference with us is to get answers, or to get, if I'm not here one day, you don't have to wait for me to come back to work. We are a small group. So everyone that's in a project is kind of in on the same, point of the project. So I think we're more hands-on. As Caroline says, we're a small but mighty team. And I really believe that. And our testimonials and all that show that. I mean, we have a lot of clients that return to us with many different projects. So I think it's the fact that we're small and mighty that really makes us stand out from the larger companies in our industry.
Right.
And if I could even build on that, Michael, somebody made the comment to me recently. She was a facility consultant, And she said, Caroline, I have never worked with a team like yours who is eager to say, we can do that. Well, let's get to it today. Hey, we need photographs of what is happening in the space. What can we repurpose furniture wise? And that you guys are down there in the afternoon. Any other architectural firm that I've ever dealt with is going to hand over a change order or say, hey, I have only so many meetings. We can't do that. But, we consider the full project before we say we can't do something,
Right.
And I think that's pivotal to us.
Yeah. I get guests like that, especially entrepreneurs, because you were an entrepreneur, right? So it's one of those things where, I'm sure it's a lot different now than it was in 1999 and being able to figure out what you can do and what you can't do. But one of the key things that I've taken away from a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've had on this show is that when people come, especially early on, when people come to them with a problem or something that can you solve this? The answer is yes. And even if it's no, you don't tell them no. You figure it out.
You're
right?
Absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah. So talk to me. I'm interested in this entrepreneurship thing. So if you'll indulge me for a second, because we have a lot of people that listen to the show that are between the ages of 25 and 35. So they're entrepreneurs, young professionals trying to get into real estate investing, a lot of different kinds of people, but basically they look like me. I'm 30, so right in that wheelhouse. So talk to me about the importance, because Allie's talking and she's been with you for 6 months, right? And it seems that she's bought into the culture and what you guys are trying to do. So talk to me about the importance. You said you're a small but mighty team. What makes it mighty? The culture has to make it mighty, right?
Yes, I think it's the can-do attitude. We're quick to identify the can't do attitudes and try and, if a team member comes with that attitude, we try and break them of it, honestly. It's exactly like you say, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. We may not have the answer when we're saying yes, but we're going to figure that out. And it might not be my answer. I'm pulling from my team to figure out how are we going to do this, but we're going to do it, and then we'll see where it goes.
Right. Also with the entrepreneurship thing, was it a tough move to go from, working with Carteret Savings Bank to doing your own thing? Was that like talk to me about that decision to go out on your own?
The main reason is the red tape. You can see the excitement building per department. Hey, human resources wants a training room, or one of the other groups wants to do something different within their department in order to build a business strategy. And they would just put the proposal out there, need to get the funding, and then they would keep hitting brick walls, and here you have this great idea and you got to wait. So something you want to implement immediately, all of a sudden is taking 3 and 6 months. And by then you've lost the energy and, the impact of what could happen in a department. And that, I think, is what broke me down. It's like, okay, if I want to make any sort of impact in this world, let me create the company that can make the changes happen immediately,
Right.
And it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the vibe that I get from a lot of the people that are entrepreneurs that I have on the show, is that like it's a wild ride. But as long as you have a good head on your shoulders and you're working hard and you're surrounding yourself with the right people, it seems like it's worth it. So I think that's awesome. So let's get back to the actual system and processes of HF planners. So Allie, like when you, if I'm a client, I'm a potential client, how does this process start? Like, do you reach out to people? Are you looking for building owners? Like, how does this all, like the ball get rolling when people are looking to maybe redesign their space or move into a new space and they want it designed a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, it can come from many different angles. I mean, like I said, the most common way is facilities managers, but yeah, it can be business owners. If you have a corporate building, maybe it's not quite leasing out as fast as they want it to. So maybe they want to redo the lobby area to entice companies to come lease their space. It could be sometimes just reaching out directly to end users if they don't have a facilities manager. Not every corporation is big enough to have their own facilities team. So we have services if they need us on site, for a project for a week, 2 weeks, a month, hopefully longer. We can reach out directly to the end user.
Right. And then kind of like, what's the next step? So like, you know, that you get the client in the door, they're like, all right, we want to work with you. What are some things that you do? And either of you can answer this because I'm not really sure where this falls in the chain of command. But what's like the next step from that process?
Well, we would have a kickoff meeting and, make sure that we captured everything properly. Like tomorrow morning, we have a kickoff meeting. The client is growing, and that's rare these days. And they moved into this building at the end of last year and they're already out of space. So, okay, let's have a kickoff meeting and get the requirements we need to do our job properly, meaning the floor plans, the organization chart, and which departments are growing. And then we'll survey the building and make sure the drawings are accurate, and then just start creating the puzzle. Okay, human resources has 10 people now, but in a year they think they're going to have 15 people. Well, where are we putting those extra 5 people? And it's not always big corporate America. We currently have a client that's on the 4th floor of a building and relocating up to the 5th floor, and they're in 8 office space. And what furniture can we take? What furniture can't we take? And how will it fit in the new space? So we'll physically go inventory all the furniture, come up with a new layout, and give them ideas on what they can take or can't take.
Right.
So
has this been the most challenging time period of trying to do this job? Like,
sure.
I mean, you've been doing it for a while. This has to be the most challenging, right?
For sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Over the summer, it was, what is the quick fix for clients going back into the office? And, are we putting screens up between people to get them back? Because nobody knew how long this was going to take. And where can we put, hand sanitizers out? And actually purchasing hand sanitizer stations and putting them around for clients. And we survived. It was not easy, but we made it through and have gotten to the other side. Other design firms have not,
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, it's just crazy to me because, like we're talking about, new spaces, and I feel like some businesses or, offices or whatever are leaving their original space or cutting down on total space, but also want to have more space in between their people. So it's just like, to me, like this is like your opus, like your great, what is that, an opus? Is that like your
Sure.
your masterpiece? Because like you're used, not finally, I mean, I'm not saying, I don't mean it that way. Like you're taking all these years of experience and trying to solve these problems that are so difficult to solve, because like you said, nobody really knows. What I think is really interesting about this whole thing, and something that I didn't really know up until now, is how ingrained you guys need to get into these businesses. It's not just like, hey, show me where to put my desks. It's like, it needs to be everything, because you need to, like, it needs to work over time, not just for that one day. So like these relationships last for a while, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of people, will go into a corporate office space and just assume that this desk has always been here. And I, conveniently sit next to, the finance department with whom I have to work with. But you're right. No, we go into detail with departments. Who do you need to sit with? Do you need to be near a copier room? Do you need to be by the entry so that when interviews come in, they can be ushered right into a conference room? So there's a level of it all that we capture and make the space work for them.
Right. Yeah.
It's a whole business strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think it's great. So like, what are some predictions? Let's like talk about some predictions. You don't have to get crazy with them. I know I saw you get the little, you got a little nervous there, but so given some of the trends that you're seeing right now, where do you kind of see let's just do offices. Where do you see the modern office moving? Is that something that's going to be like, general speaking? Because I mean, I've talked to people that have been in the office since, April of last year. Like they never left. And I'm like, I didn't even know people were in the office. I didn't even know you could leave your apartment in April, which I wish I knew, because I probably would have. But April of last year, not this year. So talk to me about some of the things that you're seeing and maybe some light predictions on kind of where you see the modern office going.
Sure. I think we've all been forced, or a good percentage has been forced to work from home. So this is, a new business model for a lot of companies, including HF planners. So, okay, can you do the job accurately, efficiently from home? And if that's the case, do I take your desk away here, or do I turn that into a sharing scenario? And are you comfortable with that? So is somebody coming to clean that desk and you're going to sit there tomorrow, and, somebody else is sitting there the next day? And if that's not the case, do people go back into private offices so that there is a cleanliness marker on this whole return to the office? I think it's going to change a lot. In the 80s, IBM did a lot of let's work from home. And I don't recall how long it took, but they did realize that this doesn't work, 100%. So I think it's going to be a good test to try it and see, does it work for every company or not,
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a case by case basis. And
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
All good.
this is your first ever podcast interview. We gotta make you sweat a little bit. Yeah, right. So when we're talking about all this stuff, I think one of the things, like we said before, like the answer is always yes.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever gotten yourself into situations where it's just like this space does not work for what this person had? Like they have a space. Yeah,
absolutely. And depending on who we're representing, if I'm representing the building owner and he's pushing to get that client in there, it's a delicate position for me to say, you really should look at a different building. And you hope the way you answer some of the questions that they'll realize it. Other clients just love a building. We had a client in the Philadelphia Naval Yard who just fell in love with the building, and they should not have been in that building. But they moved ahead, and they're in there now. And it's, there was a lab scenario, and they had to go from the 3rd floor through the 4th floor to the roof, and the 4th floor was occupied by somebody else. And that 4th floor tenant did not want their exhaust stacks going through their space. So it was a huge negotiations, and I don't think they would have moved in there if they had realized that day one.
Right.
So it's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, because like you said, I mean, it doesn't even always just necessarily focus on one business. You could be working with one or one building or whatever, but then all of a sudden there's these ripple effects that affect everybody. And to me, it's very interesting because like I said before, I mean, getting so ingrained in everything about this business, and even if people are like, hell bent on being in a space, you gotta,
it's true,
finagle them in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're talking about, designing spaces. We're talking about, we're going back to the office, doing all these different things. We're talking about a lot of different stuff. So maybe we've already touched on them, some things that you would recommend clients do or potential clients do if they're listening to this show and they're like, is this like a start early and often, like open up a dialogue type of thing? Is this like if they're having issues with trying to figure out, floor plans or how to get people back to the office, what are some things that you think are, key things for these clients to, at least start the process of?
Sure. Well, I think you need to engage the team, and there's a degree of change management that's involved with this because, the space is going to be different. So we're talking with the human resources team. Okay, so what is the comfort level to get people back in the space, and doing surveys to determine, do I want to come back? Don't I want to come back? At what percentage? Will I use the cafeteria? Will I bring my own lunch? Do you even need cafeteria personnel for the first 3 months? And then, is there a gym on site? Are you going to open up your gym again? Or what type of cleanliness has to happen there? And, who are your vendor partners in all of this as well? Is it the cleaning crews coming in, to what degree, as well as any other people that might be needed?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's just interesting because, I think like for me, when I'm talking to my clients, it's one of those things where like if they have a deal in the pipeline, it's like, hey, you got to open up these, especially over the last year and a half, like you got to open up these files. Like, don't wait. Like, don't be like, we're closing in a week. Like we need it done because it doesn't work that way right now. And just like, the communication stuff and everything, because, there's a lot of different things that, the last year and a half has affected and slowed down other processes and all that kind of stuff. So, when you're working with these clients, it is obviously this comes at a cost, right? And is this one of those things where like the level of changes is like dependent on the cost, Does that question make sense?
Absolutely.
Like,
No.
so are you like, sorry, let me just clarify it one more time, just because I didn't like it. But when you're working with these clients and you have, things that you need that you're suggesting that they do, and they're just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It costs too much money. Does that happen?
Absolutely. Okay. And like a lot of clients have said, this was never an emergency that we planned on. So we don't have a lot of funding to handle this, So, okay, well, if we're moving, 50 people into this other building, obviously there's going to be a moving cost. There's going to be a potential reconfiguration cost. And then depending on the client, do they want to brand it? Branding is all the rage. So it does add up, including our fee, absolutely. So we help them manage it as well, that's one of the big things. And then, what I should have said before was HVAC is a big thing. Okay, getting your air exchanged, and can you open windows, like the window behind Allie? Absolutely, we can open that and get clean air in. But all these other buildings are sealed tight. So to make sure that their HVAC system is something else being taken into consideration.
Right. Yeah. I remember like when I was in elementary school, they had those windows that open like this way. And we would open up the window, it would do nothing. We'd just be like in there, 8 years old, sweating our asses off. It was always great. But all right. So as we kind of progress through this episode, I think one of the things that would be good to kind of get from both of you, I guess, we can start with Allie because we haven't heard from you in a while. So 6 months into this job, we always like to talk about goals on these episodes. So what are some things that you're hoping to accomplish over the next year?
Really get people comfortable with going back in the office. I mean, that's part of, our life besides our families is our coworkers, who we engage with. And if we're stuck at home, it's really hard to do that. Even as far as technologies come along, as humans, one of our basic needs is social interaction. So I would like to increase, I know there's always going to be some type of hybrid. And when you were talking about light predictions, I think going forward, there's always going to be some type of hybrid off work situation. Maybe not so much as working remote indefinitely or coming back in 5 days a week for most companies. Some companies have to, because if they're manufacturing and whatnot, that's a more hands-on job. So they've always needed to be there on site. But I think you're going to look at more of a hybrid situation. And for me, it's, making that connection with people and getting them, specifically facility managers, to get their employees to feel more comfortable going back to work. And that's going to take time because, everyone, it is an unknowing. And it's, just explaining what we can do for them and hitting those pain points and just really educating them that there are safer ways to go about this and come back.
Right. Yeah. I think there's definitely some good goals for sure. And you didn't even do like increase my sales by 500%, or anything like that, which obviously are your goals. Maybe even
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. You would like that. I would like that. I'd be happy for everybody. Yeah, right. Yeah. So Caroline, what about you? Like let's take a broader scope view of some things that you're hoping to accomplish with HF planners over the course of, we'll do the next year also.
Sure. I think it's, potentially growing our services. So one way we're helping customers get back is to how to utilize your outdoor space. So we're collaborating with landscape architects and landscapers to say, hey, we can add a conference room or a collaboration area outside. And so people are comfortable coming back, maybe not on a day like this, but to go outside, but, come September, October, let's have a meeting outside. There's the change management function of it all. We have change management certification. So how can we help the end users feel comfortable? I mean, it's a process, to say somebody, like you mentioned, you come back in a year to the office. Well, what is going to be the main concerns, and how can we help mitigate those concerns so that they are comfortable coming back? And how do you tell the entire team, if it's, a 200 person office, what are the changes that need to happen in order to get the company running again, and convince them to come back.
Right. Yeah. Does this, just because in that answer, you're talking about like, different things and air quality and whatever, do you guys ever have to get involved with like Fitwell stuff or well certifications and all that?
We've touched on it, that we are actively seeking the well AP certification. which, definitely is how to make people comfortable in buildings,
Right.
and I think it's great,
Yeah, we did an episode on that a few months ago, or I guess at the time of this recording, maybe a month ago. When this episode posted, it'll be a few months ago. Fun fact, his name, guess what his name was? Guess what his name was? Michael Ham.
Oh,
No
Like
way.
literally his name is my name, and it was hilarious. Yeah, Michael Ham. He's South Korean, so we don't really look alike at all. We both have glasses, but that was like the extent of our, similarities. But great guy. We had a great conversation. Very interesting stuff. But you were talking about that, so I figured I'd, at least jump in with that one. But all right. So when we're talking, we have a lot of people in the real estate world that listen to this show because obviously it was born on LinkedIn and we've grown since then, but we still have a home on LinkedIn. So when we put these episodes together, and obviously we have an audience and people that listen and look at the posts and all that kind of stuff, we mentioned facility managers, we mentioned building owners. Like, who are other people, maybe Allie, when you're going out to these networking events like I do, who are people that you're trying to meet to find those clients?
Brokers, commercial brokers, developers, other furniture vendors, because we kind of go hand in hand. They take the design and they actually make it come to life. And, without us, they don't really have a layout. So commercial moving, really anything that has to do with setting up a commercial office, audiovisual, anything like that, because they're all typically going after the same end users we're going after.
Right.
And I've seen it where I've introduced people to my clients or my network and vice versa.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's the way to do it. I mean, like if the network grows, that's great. I mean, honestly, this show has been a way that I've been able to expand my network and working with other people. I mean, a good friend of mine, she works for an environmental services company where they do, site remediation and stuff like that. And we realized when we first met that we have a lot of the same clients. So boom, it's basically like a two-headed monster when we go to an event, and it just works out really well. So I think that's great that you're doing that and trying to work with other people and make the network work. That's what you got to do for sure. All right. So we're going to move the show into our closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight. So the Spotlighters have listened to Mike Ham, Caroline Shelly, and Allie Rodriguez talk for 40 minutes up until now. So we're going to get into the 45-minute, 50-minute range, I'm sure. So what would be one thing from each of you? I'm not sure who I'm going to start with yet. I'm thinking it as I'm putting this together. What would be one thing that you would want the Spotlighters, which is what I call my audience, to walk away from this episode with? So, Allie, we're going to put you on the spot because you were the one that set this episode up. So I'm going to put you on the spot and make you do Under the Spotlight first. So you're under the spotlight. What do you got for us?
I think the main thing is, for me,
it gets hot under the spotlight.
Yeah, because it's like the people you're networking with, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like whenever you're doing something, I don't know how to word this.
It's no pressure. I mean, I made it sound like this was like this crazy thing, but
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like when you're making a connection, it's just like making something more, have like, I don't even know if it's a word, but genuity like behind it.
Yeah. Make a genuine connection. Yeah.
Make a genuine connection. Cause I feel like that's the people that are going to remember you most is, the ones that look to give as opposed to receiving.
100%. Yeah. There we go. That was it. Because it's like people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and if they don't know you and they don't like you and they don't trust you, good luck to getting their business. Even if it's just one of those things out of those three that you don't have, you're not going to get it. So I think that's a great point. We talk about that a lot on the show. So definitely from a networking standpoint, that is a slam dunk one. So Caroline, we're going to have you follow that up. So you are under the spotlight now. What do you have for us?
To recognize that we can be a business strategic partner, that we're not just planning your space, we're helping your business grow, so HF planners can get in the door with you and listen to your concerns. And it's not just where am I putting a desk, but it's how can I help your company grow, so that people should look at us as a strategic partner.
Awesome. Love it. All right, let's hit them with the links. If people need more HF planners, which I can't imagine that they wouldn't, and they want to work with you guys, what are some key links that they should be looking at? Allie, you want to take that?
Yes, well, we have a LinkedIn page. We have an Instagram that we're starting up, as well as I believe we have a Facebook, if I'm not okay. I believe those are our three main. If Caroline has any more to add to that.
And just our website, www.hfplanners.com.
I just followed HF Planners on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
There you go. You got another follower today.
That's
so
great. We love
awesome. Yeah, I will put the those links and the social handles in the show notes for everybody listening. You can go there to check them out. If for some reason you want to go through me to get to Caroline or Allie, my email address, themorningspotlight.com or themorningspotlight@gmail.com. The website is themorningspotlight.com. You can go there, reach out to me. Be happy to make an introduction for you. Caroline, Allie, really appreciate you guys coming on today. This was great.
I had a blast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome. And the Spotlighters, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.